the north. And this is a result of many insidious activities by the MI6. And because British imperialism has had a long history in the north of Ireland. As when we were there, we were invited to see the graveyards of the original Irish Republicans and the cemetery where many of the activists of the IRA now lie. But their sacrifices were not in vain, because the struggle against imperialism still continues. As even though there are many divisions that were apparent in this city between the loyalists and the Republicans, as even from neighborhood to neighborhood, you could see as strict divisions. But even though the British government and mainstream media would have you believe, there is still resistance to that, as the struggle against sectarianism continues, because the issue here is not one of against Catholics or Protestants. It's not really a religious issue, because it is truly as an issue against that of the colonized and the settler. So, and the effects of that are still apparent, because poverty is very widespread in the city of Belfast, as there is really an absence of any middle class, so to speak, because many of people are struggling with poverty, homelessness, and there is an astonishingly high rate of suicide in the cities. We have seen, because when we were invited to one of the cemeteries for a tour with Dan, a local teenage boy almost committed suicide there, and reminds us of the grim realities of living in that city. And the 32CSM still continues to build a grassroots movement to help the people of Belfast, as things are not getting better in the city, unfortunately, as things are in fact getting worse, and it will be getting very bad very soon because of the recent political developments from Britain, as they wish to exercise their imperialist will upon the Irish people of Belfast, and maintain their intentions to make a hard border between the occupied north and the south. And because actually that will affect many people living there, because many people are very interconnected between the north and the south. For example, I met a woman who had family from Dublin, but she currently lives in Belfast. And sorry, I'm just getting off track. Yeah, but the second city in which we stayed in the north was Derry, or as the imperialists want to call it, Londonderry. There we got to see firsthand the building of a grassroots movement between people of that community as a resistance to Sinn Féin and revisionists that operate in the area, and to tell people, regardless of faith, race, gender, or other factors, and to treat people equally and help people equally as a community effort. Gary, one of the council members of Derry, showed us the history of the city as it happened, and we got to see the Derry Wall, the Free Derry sign outside the city, the many wall murals that commemorate the political events of the city, and even a plaque which showed the hunger strikers who were in the struggle, and many of them who passed away. even though they started with very little, the community effort still continues and have grown into a level where they've reduced the homelessness rate in Derry, in their area of Derry, to almost 0, and have built up a community center in that area, which started from only in a broken and abandoned building in a field, like tucked away in a neighborhood cul-de-sac. But now they have a thriving community center with, like, the Gaelic language classes. There's food emergency food for people, and emergency housing. So, and help with addiction as well, because like there are many people struggling with addiction in the north of Ireland as well. And seeing that as seeing the struggles, but also the valiant efforts of the community struggling and uniting around that to improve the community from the ground up, it gave me a lot of hope for the future. Even though conditions are worsening in the north because as a direct result of British imperialism, the 32 CSM and the people of Ireland stand strong against that. And I am hopeful for their future and their struggle. Thanks. Sorry, I just don't have stage fright.
Here, I'll just put the flag up behind you. In the middle of your presentation.
Right on, right on. I'd just like to take this opportunity here to introduce myself. My name is Jonathan. I'm a member of the Revolutionary Student Movement of Montreal, and I was recently very generously invited to attend the Ardèche, the 32 CSM, their 20th annual, on the 20th anniversary of such an occasion, and also to compose a political report for my organization, the Revolutionary Student Movement. And so this is composed of my own personal recollections of Ireland, and also excerpts from the political report, which I was asked to compose. So without further ado, I will begin. When I was in Ireland, I met all manner of people, and owing to the nature of my trip, the majority of which were involved to some degree or another in the Republican movement. What I remarked on was the dignity with which they carried themselves and spoke according to it all as equals. At the council, they spoke of the high and mighty and their designs upon the land, and the intricate details of how a political organization grows and sustains itself, of finance, and the all too familiar cry, "Get your money out," but also of the quotidian. And with a sad note, they spoke on the homelessness and the problems of the drugs in their community. Every organization, every Republican organization in Ireland had worked to some extent in that field, and they asked themselves, are we doing it just for the sake of doing it, because everyone else is? And I don't think that's the case, which I will continue later. And of course, they spoke of football, and with unmistakable Irish perseverance, instead of an ill-fated match against a team whose supporters filled the ranks of Sinn Féin, we only lost the match to them. You gave your guns to them. They were speaking, of course, of the police team of the Police Service of Northern Ireland, who had played a recruitment ad during the match, inflaming sectarian violence in the region. With the Police Service of Northern Ireland, Britain covers its colonial ambition with the recruitment and tokenism of Catholics. They have always, the British in this land have always tried to label the conflict as a political one, as a religious conflict, as opposed to what it is, a political one. Republicanism itself, often tied to Catholicism by the British, has also been sprung from many Protestants, such as Wolfe Tone and Henry Joy. The question is one with universal validity.